have Dr. J on. And, I know he has a name, but everybody knows him as Dr. J. So if it's okay with him, I'll just call him Dr. J on this show.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, okay, good deal. Even though he does have a name, and that's John Elias.
That's right.
Actually, Dr. J is a well-deserved term because he is a doctor. And that's not a medical doctor, but it's a Juris Doctorate. And that means one that has gone through law school and got a diploma. And then he selected not to become member of the private club they call the BAR, actually the British Accreditation Regency, which is a private club of elite people and others that like to practice law and just interact with society that we got to do sometimes.
I'm actually really glad, Augie, that you do know what it stands for, and that is why when people say Esquire, it denotes in America that it is a lawyer, right?
Yeah, it's a barrister
really means like aristocrat, sir, things like that. You're not a knight, but that's what it essentially means. So if you're part of the elite club, people have to call you a certain thing. So, and also let me mention one more thing. There's a lot of for-profit law schools that there's exceptions in certain states. It's only if it's from an American Bar Association school that you can actually have a U.S. recognized and internationally recognized Juris Doctorate.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. So, therefore, actually, the basketball player doesn't deserve the name because I'm the real Dr. J.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that actually it is a title of nobility.
Thank you. That is absolutely the right way to say it. Yes, it is a title of nobility, and you mentioned very few people I ask what bar actually stands for. Nobody in law school would ever answer that question properly, but you got everything right, Augie. You know your stuff.
No, sounds good. Well, anyway, there's more on your bio here, but what I also want to say is that you are a talk show host of a very popular global radio show, and you have interviewed some of the most interesting and influential people in the world. And if you don't mind, I want to hear some about some of those people here. Maybe that's where we could start, do you think? Or
Sure. I mean, there's just so many. I was able just to jot down just a few off the top of my head. I would probably have to go to the site, and that doesn't even include 2012 to the end of 2014. But I could tell you, for instance, one of the big moments when I actually have a screenshot from that day of the listeners that were, I have access to something that people want in the industry for things that broadcast on the internet. It tells you in real time how many listeners are dropping off and going on. So this was like the highest peak because you had a United States Senator calling Edward Snowden a true American hero, literally right after he was went public and ended up in the Moscow airport. So that was probably one. Obviously, the other politicians were great. Governor Dukakis is a great friend. He's on very, very regularly, at least once a year. Let's see, who else? Uri Geller, great guy, very fun. He's also a motivational speaker on top of doing on the show live the actual time, the clock stopping. So that's interesting if people want to hear about it.
I've heard him do that on shows, and that is phenomenal because like he did both with you and yours and with Art Bell, he talking on the radio and told people to go get a watch that is not working. He did his thing, and the doggone thing stopped working.
Here's the best part. This also happened when the show was rebroadcast. Can you believe that?
Really? I didn't know that.
I'll tell you why, according to Uri's explanation, because I even said that to him. I said on the second interview, I said, just so you know, people heard this the second time. They thought it was live, and it wasn't. And I got reports from literally people around the globe that the clock stopped. So I he explained why. He said it has nothing to do with him. It has to do with everybody and their mind, the power of everybody's mind. So he was definitely one that stuck out. Of course, you cannot go wrong with Edgar Mitchell. I have one of the largest collections of Edgar Mitchell ever. And I also have his last interview, which I've yet to release, which was recorded on the Wednesday before he died, on the Friday. Roger Leir's. I have so many last interviews. Marcel Jr., Roger Leir, Jim Mars. I mean, just a lot. But more people. Story Musgrave is always a cool astronaut because he's a skydiver as well. And so we have a lot to talk about there. The FBI agent who took down the biggest mole in the history of FBI, the agent that was the mole was Robert Hansen, who is now serving time with a buddy of mine, well, not quite buddy, a pen pal of mine, Dr. Theodore Kaczynski, which, I am very fascinated with because of what is posted on my website. I'd like everybody to check that out when the show's over. It's a link to Chicago Tribune, and the caption says, "The iPhone X proves the Unabomber was right." Everybody check that out, which is what started me.
Yeah, give us your website so people can look at even while they're listening.
Absolutely. Everybody, it's not just the site. Everything is under the same name. The name of the show, Dr. J Radio Live, drjradiolive.com is the website. Everything else is at DRJ Radio Live. So you're talking about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Flickr, Tumblr, Gmail, the domain, like I said, YouTube, everything is just the name of the show. So it's pretty simple. Yeah, people can't mess that up.
Well, I've been on there. There's a lot of good stuff. Hey, look, I'm even on there. How about
Yeah, that's right. You are both as a guest and as the host. And also, the FBI agent was really good, Eric O'Neill. He was portrayed by Ryan Felipe, a former CIA officer who also put me in touch with the former NSA director, who's a judge, too. Retired judge. Secret Service, who was on presidential detail from Nixon through W. Of course, I've had FBI, CIA, Secret Service, DIA, and the Honorable Paul Hellyer. These are just a handful, Augie. There's so many more. I would hope that would satisfy it, but I
tell you, the people that you have talked to on the air, and you got the recordings and the show on your website, so for people that want to go and listen to some of this stuff, do, because there is pearls of wisdom, and there's some laughs in there too, so it's all good.
And I also must say that only about 25% of the shows are archived because problems with an old webmaster, but the new webmaster is not only re-releasing all the old shows, he's releasing everything I've ever done. So over the course of the next few months, not only will we be caught up as I start broadcasting live here in Late Night in the Midlands, all those shows will be up by the end of the week now, after they're played on the UK networks and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to say that people will go to the site, find the shows, you'll find Uri Geller, you'll find Michael Dukakis, you'll find all these other people, but soon you're going to find more. That's what I'm trying to get.
Well, let me ask you something, get your opinion on Uri Geller.
Yes.
There was a magician, half a century ago, and he said that most of what you see on a magic show are tricks.
Are you talking about James Randi?
No. I forget the name of the guy. I'll think of it in a second. He said most of what you see on a magic show is tricks, but once in a while, someone come that is the real thing.
Yeah.
I think he was the real thing.
Well, sure, if you want to say he was able to predict where oil was, but remember on that Johnny Carson show, since Johnny Carson was a former stage magician, he had contacted James Randi on how to make foolproof props. Uri Geller was exposed. And of course, as a host, I never share my political views because the Democrats would kill me if they knew what I was saying about them. So I would never say to Uri Geller, hey, come on my shows so I could haggle you for how you got exposed by James Randi on Johnny Carson. So obviously I don't bring things up to people like that. Yeah, it's just if you invite them on, you want a good relationship, you want a good show, you don't want them to hang up on the interview.
No.
So that's why I don't bring stuff like that. But I tell
you that when it comes to James Randi, he doesn't have that much credibility with me because he stacks the deck against you.
He does.
I know someone else that went on there.
Yeah, and I've seen it happen with a few friends of mine, David Blaine, Darius Idabari. Well, I can't call Chris Angel a friend yet. Maybe one day. She's on the show multiple times and things like that. But the point is James Randi is not the greatest. He's a good stage magician, but he shouldn't be the public face of trying to destroy things, especially with his $1 million award still unclaimed. I've had a few people that could probably have claimed that award under scientific conditions.
Yeah, I think so. And to another subject that is kind of near to my heart, and that is that I know you had an incredible experience in the past that most people call a near-death experience.
Yes. Now, there's two facets to the story, because before I get into the near-death, let me give you the background and tell you why life flashes before your eyes before you die.
Yes.
Life does not flash before your eyes before you die. What happens is your brain is so fast, okay, that in the span, for me, I was involved in a hit and run. I was making a left turn. I was tapped from the back, and essentially I didn't go in through the driveway. I missed the driveway because I was sent off course, and in the span of 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds from the time I was hit from behind to the time I actually hit the pole and went through the windshield, I had maybe 40 plus thoughts that started from, I don't think I'm going to make it into the driveway, to, oh no, I think I might be late for class, to I think the car might be totaled, I'm going to get in trouble because I haven't paid it off yet, to oh no, I'm going to get hurt, and more other thoughts in between, to ultimately like, oh God, I'm airborne, I'm going into the windshield, I think this is it. I'm sorry, family. I know I've led a happy life. It's 27 years is early, but if it's time for me to go, I'm not going to complain other than I wish them happiness and able to somehow get over this. And then immediately after I went into the windshield, ripped my face literally down the middle of the forehead to upper my ear, and that flap was hanging on by the skin from barely like a little thread of my eyebrow. And what I heard was it sounded like someone turned on the faucet and it was blood gushing out. And so the reason I say that is because that, as soon as I went back in, it went into the windshield of my head and then went back in the car, right? And so that part seemed so slow motion. The moment the moment I went back in and I hit the seat, it's like time was back to normal, and immediately someone turned a faucet loud. So that was the thing. I've had multiple surgeries over time. I was fine. I was skydiving. I was working at a prestigious law firm, running the radio show, being a free fall photographer, filming people skydive, and all sorts of stuff. Until surgery 24. This was right after the bar exam, and what happened is August 2014 early, I went to a surgery in the surgery center, and they screwed up, and I ended up in a coma. Ironically, there was that famous comedian Joan something, you might remember. She died from the same thing. She died because something went wrong at a surgery center in New York. I don't know if it was Beverly Hills. I believe it was New York.
Joan Rivers.
Thank you. She died. I made it. So I know I'm a fighter, and when they told me I wouldn't survive the night, of course I knew I was going to survive. I mean, I never second-guessed it. So when they told me that they had to induce me into a coma, I had less than a 5% chance of waking up. I didn't even think. I didn't even worry. The coma was really interesting because when you're induced, it wasn't a natural coma. It was a medically induced coma.
Oh.
It's like surgery, which is why I'm surprised Michael Jackson was never able to figure out when you take propofol, you're not sleeping the way you and I would sleep. It's a very, very non-sleep at all. It's just shutting your body down, but you're not resting, so you're always groggy, okay? You're also not getting the brain activity to have a dream. So I woke up from the coma, it seemed like 10 minutes, literally 10 minutes, that's all, for a 29-day coma. And as soon as I woke up without the tube in my throat, first thing I said, because I was intubated, remember? I had to be a machine breathing for me from the night I was in, almost total of 45 days, because it wasn't long after that when they removed it. I was out of the coma. They said I'd be released within a week, but I know how to work the systems and get out of there pretty quickly. So when I said to them that I had the gnarliest dream, which almost seemed too real, and it was something unlike I've never seen before. They're like, that's not possible. You had no brain activity. But I know what I saw. I mean, I know what happened, so I'll just tell you what it was. There's two parts to it, but it's really the second that's the most fascinating. I was in San Pedro. The link I have there is family. And so I was just walking down the street and saw something, but that wasn't the point. I ended up going to the beach. It was a little boat. I don't want to call it a yacht, but it wasn't as small as a fishing boat, but it was just one of those small enough boats that probably had maybe a cot inside, and there were two people sitting down, one person standing up. Here's the crazy part. The boat wasn't in the water. It was beached on the shore. Now, when I got there, I remember as I was walking down the street, there were buildings on both sides. But yet when I got to the beach and saw the boat, looked behind me, everything was gone. I was literally in a field of golden sand and a very bright sun and a boat that was beached with beautiful glistening blue water, and the wind had an element of light into it. So the stronger the wind blew, the more blinding I was get. So I'm talking to this individual, and then I make the sudden realization, and I said, "Didn't you die in 1988? And he smiles and says, "Yes." And then immediately that light, the wind picked up so hard, I was blinded, and boom, I'm awake. And wow. He was somebody who did die in 1988. I mean, that's why I made that realization. And so I was literally speaking to someone who had passed away.
Did you know who the guy was?
Absolutely. He was a customer at the family restaurant. And at the time he died, I was 8. And he'd been coming every weekend to help my father fill in a pond we have for fish. So one weekend he wasn't there, and I said, "What happened to him? Why isn't he here?" And my dad said, he had a heart attack and he passed away. And I was like shocked because it wasn't my first experience with death in the family or death of a close one. It was just like, wow, he's so healthy, no hospital, and he's just gone. So it stuck out in my mind. I mean, every detail, to this day I could picture him, not just because of what I saw in that coma dream. And by the way, unlike any dream, or I don't want, it's not a dream because it has everything consistent with near death. It has the open field, it has the light. I mean, so many things consistent, right? And more importantly, I remember every second in my head. I can picture everything. I mean, I wish I was an artist as far as drawing or something, so I could literally create this for people to see, because I really think it would be really interesting. But the fact that, again, the light, the openness, and the fact that I was speaking to someone who had been dead for almost 3 centuries now this year. Well, I mean, what would you call it, Augie?
Well, I would say, first
of all, you had no brain activity, by the way.
Yeah, you were clinically dead.
Yes.
But your mind is not dead because it never dies. It just,
right.
The mind is not in the brain. It is just part of the brain. So if the brain quits, it's just like the hard drive quits, but the memory is still in there and can be extracted. And what you need to do is to get with somebody that is really good on the computer, and what you saw could be recreated in CGI.
It can be created, absolutely, because I could literally give every detail of the boat. I can give the detail of the couple who were sitting down. I can give, to the different colors of his hairs on his beard, the gray ones versus the dark brown ones. Everything I can recreate out of
Oh, yeah, we need to do that.
Oh, I agree. It's definitely on my list of to-do, but there's a lot. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, there's a lot more people than you that have had these experiences, but many of them never talk about it.
Correct.
Especially
this is why I was saying before the show, this is an exclusive because Third Phase of Moon should be here right now, and they wanted to film a documentary on this because I'd never told the story publicly. So, Augie and everybody at Late Night in the Midlands, you now have an exclusive. Yeah.
It's the first.
I didn't even talk about this when I was on Beyond Reality Radio.
Well, it's an incredible experience, and a lot of people have it, and especially the ones that is buried in religion. They don't dare to talk about it.
Yes.
Because they are thinking that, everybody else out there's going to look at me like I'm working with Satan or somebody. There's just so much ignorance to what's going on beyond.
I can actually address that, too. There is no such thing as Satanism. I know this because I've studied that left-hand path very much so. The Church of Satan has nothing to do with devil worshipping. It's a bunch of really smart, intellectual atheists who call themselves Satanists to scare off the sheep who are part of religions, because their philosophy is to treat your body as a temple. Your magic skills are, for instance, conversational skills, different languages you speak, karate, anything like that. So, for instance, your magical skills would be your psychic ability. For me, it would be my speaking ability, my intellect, my, different languages I speak, skydiving, things like that, the things that you're good at. They basically say, try everything, whatever you're good at, focus more on being the best. Things that you're not good at, don't try to become good at them if you're not going to be good. So that's the philosophy of all Satanists, and that's why when I say the term, it scares people, but I have to say Church of Satan as opposed to OTO or Temple of Set, because they won't get it. So the Church of Satan, the reason they used Satan and everything was literally to scare people until they actually took another look. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Tony Robbins, who you will get to hear on my show. And I can tell you that everything you need to learn from him, you can learn for 50 cents in late charges at the library, or for free by reading the PDF of the Satanic Bible. I'm not kidding. It is identical. Now, he doesn't use Satan or Lucifer, but the philosophy is the same. And he takes it one step further, by the way, Tony Robbins. So save 10 grand, everybody. Read the Satanic Bible. Have an open mind. I can give you some other readings, like the Antinomonium Sorcery, which would really make you understand that it's not devil worshipping. Now, are there devil worshippers out there? Yeah. Yeah, there are. There are people who absolutely worship the devil and all this, in spite of the Pope saying there is no such thing as hell. But there are people for centuries have been sacrificing humans and making candles out of baby fat, things like this. It's common knowledge going back hundreds of years. And so that I don't dispute.
But that's a human aspect. So in fact, I tell you, let me just speak on this for just a moment. And when it comes to this guy that is called Satan, first of all, he never existed, because he was created in 325 in Constantinople, Turkey, back in Nicaea back then, when all the 223 people got together to create the first draft of the Bible. They said in the notes, I read the notes from that meeting, and it says in there, we need some scary individual to scare the people into compliance and give us their wealth. Yes. So they created this guy, they called him Satan, which is Satan.
Yeah, in Latin for Satanus or Satanus. Yes, thank you, exactly. They needed a scary guy, and in that commission in 325 AD, they also, like, I know you're very well versed on so many things, which is why you've been on my show so many times. That's why I appreciate about you, Agi. And that's what adds you to a great host as well. So you got both those qualities in you. But they also removed a lot of relevant books.
Oh, yes.
So I wouldn't be... Well, first of all, even if you don't buy into the Mary Magdalene thing, which, sure, you could say evidence on both sides, you've got to understand that Jesus had a lot of blood relatives, from his mother to his other children, to her other children, which were his brothers, blood brothers. And I've always knew Jesus was an alien, because even at 4 years old, Sunday school, when people said, do you know who Jesus was? I jumped up with my hand and said, an alien. I'm like, what? I said, Virgin Mary was an abductee. She was impregnated by aliens. Angel Gabriel was an alien. And they couldn't believe what I was saying. They were like, that's blasphemy. I'm like, it's true. I just don't know how. I just knew it. I don't know why. I just knew it. The point is that was my take on it.
I did a lot of research on this when I wrote my second book about spiritual science and how the higher conscious thinking, and I found an old document that say that there is no record of this young boy called Yahshua Beth Halachma, which is Jesus' Hebrew name. There were no records of him before he was 4 years old.
Yes, that's right. That is absolutely right.
Yeah, so there is something here that is not right. And of course, Maria Magdalene, that is, of course, not her name. She was called Maria Mene. That's what she went with. And also say, there's people out there saying that she was a prostitute. No, she wasn't.
She wasn't. No.
She wore a red dress, which the prostitutes did, but she wore the red dress because she was from royalty.
Yep. That's right. And again, you're not going to find biblical scholars or anybody who will talk about things like this. They have their interpretation of what happened, and you probably know this as well. You know 666 is a BS number, right?
Oh yeah.
You know the history of it?
Yeah, but we're down at the bottom of the hour, so
sure.
Can you hold the thought on that?
Yeah.
So that we can pay some bills, and about 3 minutes or so, possibly 4, depends on how many the bills are. So we will be back shortly, and we will be back talking with Dr. J here on the Universal Consciousness Show.
Yes. Excellent.
Franklin said, if you do the same thing tomorrow as you did today, you're going to get the same tomorrow as you got today. Changing the world starts with you, and changing you starts with changing the way you think. Late Night in the Midlands can help. Listen to all of our shows at latenightinthe.com, because things really do need to change. Listen to the M&M Radio Network 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the Paranormal Radio app. Available from MNMRadioNetwork.com or TalkStreamLive.com on both Android and Apple. Our call to listen line is open 24/7. Dial 701-719-9704 so you can listen on the go. The M&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands
depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightNimblewins.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightNimblewins.com and help us help you.
To hide the truth, once you know it, makes you think that you are better than everyone else. It makes you into the type of person who says, "Ooh, I have a secret," but you're not ready to hear it yet. However, for $39.95, I'll let you in on the secret. You'll lead the people to the promised land for the cheap price of 3 easy payments of 1/3 of their soul apiece.
Back on the Universal Consciousness Show. We're talking to Dr. J, and we are getting into some really interesting things here. We were talking about, before the break, we were talking about the number 666, and it's such a scary number for a lot of people that before we go on to the next subject, would you maybe spend a minute on that one and give us your take on it, because I know you researched that one.
Absolutely. I can, and I must say, like you said, people think it's so scary. I had to call a credit card, and my numbers were 6666 in my credit card. They gave it to me. The credit card lady didn't want to help me until she changed my credit card number, and I had a new one in the mail that didn't have 666 in it. I was like, unbelievable. But I understood because I didn't know better. So, when I finally looked into it, the oldest surviving papyrus, which is what the New Testament was written, in fact, all, I believe, of the New Testament was Greek. That's why Greek and Russian Orthodox are the true Christian religion, because they're followers of Jesus, from the apostles. So, the oldest one surviving is dated to like 120-something, 170, in that range AD. And it was written by Apostle John blind in the mountain in age 90. So when he wrote The Mark of the Beast, it was 3 Greek letters. The first and last letter were the equivalent of S. The middle number was the equivalent of what sounds like an E. However, we do have to remember that Greeks had Roman numerals at the time. So, when the Bible, also people need to realize that every Western language is Greek. People say Greek and Latin. Yeah? Well, ask yourself, where did Latin come from? Greek. Mm-hmm. So, therefore, everything is literally all Greek. I mean, from German, English, Italian, Latin, Spanish, I mean, you name it. Anything Western. Even Eastern, you can make some arguments. So, when the Latins... when it was translated from Greek to Latin, it became 616, the number from the Greek Roman numerals. Then, in the 15th century, when King James translated it to English, somehow 616 became 666. So, therefore, there is no 666. That was not what was written in the Bible. You can Google it and see for yourself, because the British Museum has the oldest surviving parts of that New Testament, and yes, it's like shredded because papyrus doesn't live long. However, they do have that part where it says the mark of the beast followed by the 3 Greek letters. People can find this on Wikipedia, and you'll see the actual letters. I would have to show you, unless you find ancient Greek translation where it says the mark of the beast, but you can't miss it, essentially. So that's why I can tell you it doesn't exist. It's just more man-made stuff and fake news. And I've seen so much fake news come out. It's so ironic. All right, I'll give you an example. Michael Jackson, he did that Martin Bashir documentary, right?
Yeah.
Well, Martin Bashir really turned him into a pariah. Poor Jackson. I was there at the Elephant Bar, which in Santa Barbara when I was at UCSB, had a gate. A gated fence, and so behind it you could see were all the hangars for Santa Barbara Airport. So we were always used to seeing, and because I'm a smoker, I always sat outside, and because I'm a skydiver, I always wanted to check out the planes and be like, oh, I could jump out of that one, I could jump out of this one, I don't know about this one, things like that. So we see a continental, or not a continental, whatever it's called, so a citation land. And then it goes into a hangar, and then a bunch of police cars show up, helicopters with media, police, and media starts showing up. We're like, what is going on? So even though I'm seeing this live, I still don't see it, and this is before smartphones. So I'm watching it on the TV inside, running back outside, and they're like, Michael Jackson is inside his private plane, refuses to get out. I don't know if he owned it or not, but a lot of people use NetJet or something like that. Yep. The point being is when Maury Povich, okay, let me back this up for a second. This Is It, the documentary, was created from Michael Jackson's personal library. He was known from the time it was possible that everything he rehearsed, every commercial, everything he participated in it, for his own library, he filmed everything. That's why we have all the footage from This Is It. So Martin Bashir and his team signed consent forms to be filmed. You even see Martin Bashir in the Michael Jackson camera. So when you compare the Martin Bashir, which Maury Povich does a really good job, you see how Martin Bashir says one thing and how he cuts off a statement that Jackson would have said in the Martin Bashir document. Just by editing things, you make it look like he is sleeping with children, he's drugging them, he's this horrible guy. At one point, he asks about his Joe Jackson, and of course, because he was strict on his kids, of course Michael says something about that. But what Martin Bashir cuts out is that he goes, I can't say anything bad about the man because he was a genius. What at the time is a genius for what he did to his children. You didn't hear that in Martin Bashir, so I strongly recommend everyone, if you want to see fake news being created in front of you, search Michael Jackson Maury Povich. That's all you need to find. And you'll come across this documentary that was called The Footage You Were Never Meant to See. It might even say Martin Bashir. So if you watch that, by the end of that hour and a half, you will see how fake news is literally created. It's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah,
very sad.
There was a lot of it. He was a brilliant man.
He was such a genius. I mean, his moves, his songs, the way he was able to create music from his head. He couldn't play a single instrument. But if you see the rawness of him creating music, that is a genius. And it's sad because people say a lot of people have overdosed on drugs, but only one did it in presence of a doctor. And it's really sad because if it wasn't for Conrad Murray being a sycophant, which is essentially a doctor prescribing whatever patient wants, and probably from being a fan and getting all the money and the car and all that, and it's just horrible that he was the doctor that ordered the propofol that couldn't just here's another thing I want to dispel for everybody. Michael Jackson, yes, he died of propofol, but what really killed him was the fact that he was going through benzodiazepine and opiate withdrawals, because he was getting daily shots of Demerol and lorazepam. So the nights he used propofol was the nights he was in withdrawals. And I could tell you from all the surgeries I went through from when I was on painkillers at the times, I could tell you what it's like. You're not going to be able to sleep. So he was using propofol to sleep. If his doctor, Conrad Rury, really cared about him, he would say, just take some Xanax, which is stronger than lorazepam, or take any benzo, which I'll prescribe you, which is a lot safer than propofol, and here's some Vicodin or anything to keep you stable for this tour. He could have done that, and he'd still be alive with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. On my comment, hey, about a quarter of a bottle of scotch would do it too. Amen.
Although, I do got to say, when you're in full opiate withdrawals like that, you're not supposed to stop cold turkey if you've been on them since the 80s. Because he's been on them since his hair was burnt in that Pepsi commercial. And he was really burnt. I don't know if you saw that footage. I mean, his entire head was on fire, like full flame.
I saw it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, let's move on a little bit. I had some really solid contact with a gentleman over in Europe. He is in the Netherlands. He's called Robert van den Broek. Yeah. And he has some phenomenal abilities. He can predict where crop circles will be. He'll go out to it and he'll just watch it form. And he also was delivered artifacts from an alien being standing outside of the ship that landed in front of him. Mm-hmm. And this is something that has become very controversial. Let me speak just a little bit on it.
Sure.
I think that these people in governmental positions, they know that Robert is the real thing. And I think they more or less arranged to have him discredited some, because he took these artifacts, a friend of his took it over to England and had genetics done on it. They had a genetics code, and it came back as octopus because it looked like a tentacle of an octopus. But there were differences in the DNA. There were too much of a difference, like maybe 4-6% difference. That tells me that it is not entirely octopus. That was from something else. Because look at it. If I look at you, John, you don't look like a monkey, do you? But you have 98% similarity in the DNA with a chimpanzee.
98.8. Remember, we found that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That is literally.
So I think
1.8 difference. That's it. Not even that. 1.8 difference. Yeah.
Because of that, I think they did it to Robert. They wanted him to be discredited, and I think they got the job done. What is your opinion on that, dude?
It's exactly what we talked about the other day. And also, the craft didn't land. That's what I was trying to say. But obviously, I wanted to let you finish your statement. The craft was up there, and he saw two beams of light land and materialize into beings.
Yeah.
But yes, I do believe when Johnny Webb, what was supposed to happen is I've worked with Jaime Maussan for years. When I find something interesting, he will go literally all out. He will send a team to knock on doors, find corroborating witnesses, have film or anything analyzed, not just from a Los Angeles independent laboratory, but he'll have it triple checked from a Mexican laboratory and either one in Spain or Italy. The thing was, it had to get to me to give to him, or it had to get to him, but he said it's probably going to be easier if it's sent to you, and then I'll come pick it up. Well, Johnny decided he didn't want to do that, and I told him, listen, just grab a stupid tourist little statue of Buckingham Palace, hollow it out, cut off just a half inch of this tentacle. You don't need to send the whole thing. Wrap it and then fill it up with some sort of clay, something to make it look like it's sealed, the way drug smugglers would do it. Send it UPS over FedEx and overnight, which would be expensive, but also is not going to get really checked as much as something that is ground, because they have more time. And that didn't happen, and if it did, Augie, I really believe we would have had a very different result than what they said. That's what I think. So yeah, I believe one, the museum discredited him. They like we said the other day. Probably what happened is because they were so late, they never stayed within 10 to 15 days, not business days. They were like well beyond that by the time they gave the results. My guess is early on when they first ran the test and they saw such a disparity and they went up to the person who would have approved whatever is released. Oh, that person must have called whoever and it was said, just basically told them, shut this down. Here's the explanation. Go with it. That's it. That's what I think happened. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree because I've talked quite a bit with Robert and he sounds so genuine. And I've seen the videos when he goes out to the field and by golly, there is the crop circle where he predicted it.
Yeah, and I must say that in the first interview with him in 2015, during the show, he seemed to stop paying attention for a moment, and I repeated the question. He didn't respond, and I said, "You still there, Robert?" He goes, "Hold on a second, I'm getting something." And he goes, "There's a crop circle in India." We're like, "Huh?" He said, I see a crop circle being formed in India. Well, it took the rest of the show for me to get confirmation from the listeners, to actually start sending in pictures and, hearing that, hey, not only is it there, it just appeared. It wasn't there 2 hours before or whatever time these people passed by. So, yeah, I do believe he's genuine. The other problem was, though, is the other things that I had were pictures that Johnny and Robert took where Art Bell appeared. Well, it took me a while to get Heather and Aaron Bell to look at it, but turns out that's a public photo of when Aaron and Art were in the Philippines. So, I don't know what to say anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. So, therefore, that's now discredited by someone I trust, not saying, it's photoshopped or anything. Of course it's photoshopped after they say it's the original photo. Same shirt, same hairstyle, same age, same smile, everything. So it was down to the last detail other than the fact that he was warped. So that was clearly not what Robert had on the camera. That was something Robert fabricated. Him or Stanley or somebody fabricated it before Johnny even came there. My guess is, I doubt that it was there, but yeah. So that's where I'm sort of now in between because, see, as a lawyer, I have to see evidence of both sides.
Yeah.
Now, even though I jumped the gun with him, saying, hey, this guy is something you need to pay attention to, I didn't have all this other evidence that makes me want to step back because that's one thing I don't want to lose is my credibility.
Yeah.
Going on a limb with someone for that thing, sometimes, you do need to see everything you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, there still may be ways that picture could be interjected into the camera where they took it.
Agreed. It very well could be that, like I said, it very well could have happened the way I saw it happen, where, the video of where Robert was going through Johnny's camera. I said, I think you got something here. He scans a few more. He's like, here, you have this old man looking, and Johnny sees it from across the room. He goes, that's Art Bell. He comes up, and he's like, that is Art Bell. The point is, very well could have happened, and again, the tentacles are still there, and if they actually follow through and get them to me, I will put them in the hands of Jaime Maussan to get tested.
Yeah. Was that Johnny's camera, the guy in England?
Yes.
Oh, that could maybe explain some of it. I don't know, though. It's hard to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we have actually only about 4.5 minutes left of the show here. Gosh, this time went fast.
I know. There's so much more. We'll do this again, Augie.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'm having a blast.
Broadcasting live right here on Late Night in the Midlands. You will be one of the guests. I told you we were... Instead of pre-recording again most recently, I told you it was a live show. And I got a bunch of people lined up but I will make sure you're in there.
Oh, that's great.
You know, so we'll definitely be able to talk more. But let me just say two quick, really things. It's about one topic, QAnon. I'll tell you why this guy's legit. He took a picture of Donald Trump. Now, you could see it because you see Trump's eyes, his eyebrows, and a little bit of his hair. You can't mistake it. He's clearly in the oval where the flags are, and he's holding what looks to be a rectangular object. Q tweets a photo of Trump, and then immediately after, Trump's tweet comes out. So, essentially, QAnon, whoever he is, Trump knows who he is because every time he goes to a rally and someone's wearing a Q shirt, he points it out and claps even more. The point is whoever it is, Trump knows about it. He's very high up in the administration. Some people even speculated it's Trump himself. And then most recently, he also posted a picture where he took a picture of someone else's iPhone reflecting the presidential desk on Air Force One, and you can't deny that either. So whoever it is, and another thing is suspect too, is that you know who he's big, that he didn't post anything during the first Korean summit or the G7. Why? Because he was probably with Trump. He posts before, he posts after.
Yeah.
So everybody, make sure you go to qanon.pub. There is a hot link on my website, again, drjradiolive.com. Click on it. Q is the highest level clearance a civilian can have, like Bob Lazar, so the president gets it. Anon for anonymous. So that's where QAnon comes from, everybody. Be sure to check that out.
Yeah, that'd be good. And we're about 2 minutes left, so please tell the listeners again where they can find you, give your web address out, and your other information, where they can find you, and then you got the floor.
Yeah, everybody remember, it's just this name of the show, Dr. J Radio Live. DRJ Radio Live. Think Larry King Live, except it's Dr. J Radio Live. So the name of the show is everything. It's drjradiolive.com is where you could find everything. If you want to check out social media from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Flickr, Tumblr, YouTube, Gmail, Google, all that stuff, it's all under one word, DRJ Radio Live.